Plus, your trade is worth more. Get the best selection with more Hondas, more Hyundais, all your favorite makes and models. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now. That's way more than any other dealer in the area. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume all in one location on the Motor Mile. The Used Car Superstore is your one stop for cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Plus, Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. We finance your future, not your past. You're a valued customer and not just a number on the Motor Mile. Get more with straightforward pricing and more inventory arriving daily. Over 900 vehicles on the lot ready to choose from. The Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
When food is made with love, it's made from the heart. Our food at JD's Cafe is made with love. Hi, I'm JD. Come experience Lynchburg's best Southern comfort food. Our baby back ribs fall off the bone after being slightly smoked and marinated in our homemade sauce. They're great for family meals or large gatherings. That's also the time to try our weekly specials like Philly cheese fries. Just a cheesesteak except over fries. Experience the love. JD's Cafe, Boonesboro Shopping Center in Lynchburg.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
We're doing it right off the top today here in the Fast Lane.
Time to take a detour in the Fast Lane.
Darn right, TJ. Time to take a detour in the Fast Lane. Sometimes I wonder if I'm too old school for my own good. And I was about to come in even more, with all due respect to our friends at Big Boys Guns, Route 460 in Blue Ridge, guns a-blazing today. But the good Lord placed the right phone call in my car, Bluetooth, thankfully, and accepted it 25 minutes ago. It brought a sense of calmness to my day. It was from a listener of ours. Hopefully they'll become a client in the near future, but teases on that. But it was a great conversation and a great opportunity to decompress. The reason being, as we take a detour, I wonder if I'm too old school for my own good. Look, I am not so old school that you can't have new school principles in parenting. Empathy is important. Showing vulnerability to your kids, I think, is great. I know back in the day it was like frowned upon, particularly for men. That's antiquated. Boys need to see that their dads can have empathy because that's kind of how you process things. And sometimes you can be emotional in different ways, but you got to learn how to process things. We're not perfect, by the way. None of us are. And I think daughters need to see it from their dads, that there can be a level of emotion as well. And that's a good thing to want. It's different from back in the day. But that being said, there's a part of me that's old school. And this is the sense of, oh, look, they do a great job. You'll find no outlet that is as pro women's sports. Certainly, I would think in Lynchburg, granted, it's us in the morning warm up for sports talk shows, but, we're very pro women's sports. I'd like to think compared to a lot of sports media platforms we are, because a lot of times it's guys who want sports to be the old boys club. That ain't us here in the Fast Lane. We're about to dedicate over a half hour of the Fast Lane to Liberty University softball with their head coach, Dr. Dot Richardson, in studio 525 today. And I think women can actually aspire to this. So I'm not even of the belief that it's all women who think one way and all men who think the other. But I am old school, and I think there's probably an element to that. Not always. But there comes a certain point where I am trying to get better at positive reinforcement for my kids, telling them when they're doing something right, doing all that. But here's a shocker, TJ. I know this is going to really surprise you. From my two kids. Their mom, field hockey coach, great job, EC Glass. Fantastic working professional, property management, Brownstone Properties, does a great job. That means she's strong-willed and independent. Here's a shocker, TJ. You'll never guess this. Dad is strong-willed and independent too. Could you?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know. Shocking. You've never figured that one out. You can see the chuckle if you're watching Fast Lane, Ed Lane, and VTRN Sports on Facebook Live and YouTube. So our kids have that at certain times. And again, part of growing up. Sometimes you have to let your kids just fail. And sometimes it's repeatedly failing again and again. happened today. Guys, eat the food at the table or one of the 4 dogs in the house might get a hold of it. Not to mention we have 2 cats. They will also steal and eat human food. Animals are conditioned to grab food whenever they can because it's a survival primal instinct. They never know when they're going to get it again, which is why if you keep feeding junk food to a dog or a cat, they might get bloated because that's just the way they're wired. Well, here's the thing. At some point, that's one thing. But then one kid blames the other when it wasn't the other's fault. Then they're sitting there snickering and making fun of each other. And finally, bam, drop the hammer. Not literally speaking, but figuratively speaking. One, to your room. Dismisses that idea, so we tack on punishments. The other says that the brother set him up to fail when it never happened. So my thing is this. At some point, positive reinforcement is great, but you need old school values. Guys, no TV time till this weekend. No screens, no computers, no phones, no TV, no nothing. And if you think I'm too old school, by the way, please, come at me. Fastlane Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. But I had to get that off my chest because it was weighing on me for a while. And sometimes that has been frowned upon by people that are advising on how to help developmentally with our kids. And again, there's a lot of knowledge to be gained from a lot of the experts that are out there. Teachers, behavioral specialists in schools and other places. Our kids see a bunch of them because, they're boys at that age. And plenty of people are trying to help figure out how to connect with them. They're around a lot. But I'll throw this out there. This is going to sound old school. Most of them are female. And sometimes just dude relating to dude matters on a different level. My dad, if you're listening, live, VTR and Sports app, 93.3 FM, or Fastlane Ed Lane if he's listening on the podcast platform. Thank you so much. There were not times, and there still are things that I disagree with from my dad being more hardline and old school. But I also get it and understand that, and I'm thankful for that because it may not have jived with the warm and fuzzies that my mom would have wanted, and my mom provided a nice balance of that, so there was a place for that. But it also has gotten me to the point where I am today, where you can debate this, of course, if you're a listener, and you may be laughing, but I would like to at least think I'm a functioning member of society that can make sure that I'm not getting in trouble and hopefully contributing something positive to the world out there. So that's the reality of parenting that's out there. You need some old school tough love at times to go with a lot of the warmth and empathy that is brought on and provided. And look, the people that are preaching that, there's a place for it for my kids. I am not dismissing it at all. But sometimes it would be nice if they sat there and go, you know what? We may not like the idea of being a little bit firmer, a little bit tougher, but we see the value in it, even if it's not the skill set that we bring to the table, because they are boys, and sometimes boys need a little bit of oomph and firmness to go along with the warmth and empathy to make them productive members of society. And I am not raising boys, I am raising men. They just happen to be 6 years old, but my responsibility is to get them to be productive members of society as men, and sometimes they're going to be things they may not like. And when they get to be playing sports and doing the other things, they're going to get more of that from coaching. At least that's what we're going to look for, good quality coaching. And sometimes they're going to have to learn to take orders from different people. That's why I want them around female teachers and coaches, much like male teachers and coaches. That's life. You got to get used to it. But I think there's a warmth and a balance that's out there. And sometimes my firmness is necessary, not always, but I believe it's necessary to clash with the warm and fuzzies and everybody gets a trophy and a participate. There are times where that's good. But there's also times where, hey, listen to mom and dad. We've told you a gazillion times. And if you're breaking rules and continuing to do things you're not supposed to, somebody's got to hold you accountable. And ultimately, if they mess up, it falls back on mom and dad. And so if mom and dad have to step up, and my wife does that as well. But if dad's the only one home, that's the situation today. I was the only one home. Sometimes you just got to do it. And that's the way it is. So maybe I'm too old school. Please come at me. Fastlane Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. By the way, I need to get the voice guy, Vic Moore, an NHL Wraparound Podcast, who was a guest on your podcast this week. TJ, correct?
Yes, sir, he was.
Most definitely, to preview the Stanley Cup final. We won't have game one tomorrow, but we'll have the remaining games after that across the VTR and Sports app, Dallas and Edmonton. But Vic is our voice guy as well, and I need to get a back-on-the-road version here in the Fast Lane. And bringing that up because when you talk about situations, look, you might sound like I have blamed people for parenting previously. But there's a lot of blame that goes around when it comes to Virginia Cavalier athletics and the departure of Brian O'Connor. And there are a lot of folks at Virginia Tech that are blaming Whit Babcock for the fact that they didn't get rid of any coaches this offseason, but it's not necessarily performance-based. It's, can they afford to pay coaches to go away when they may be having to really have big wholesale changes coming in the near future? Point that David Cunningham brought up yesterday. Fastlane Ed Lane, where you listen to podcasts, because...
And guess what? We keep receipts.
Right there. Or Fastlane, Ed Lane, or VTR in Sports on Facebook Live and YouTube if that's how you care to consume us. And we appreciate all of that. But the thing for Virginia and Virginia Tech is some of this is also just getting their young Jeezy on, if nothing else. They're playing a bad hand. The ACC does not have the hand of the SEC or the Big Ten. And if you're smart, you've got to invest in the sports that matter most. And this is where the dogging on someone like Carla Williams, to an extent, I understand. Because I think Virginia was delayed in the response. But I think you also just have to keep this in mind. And we'll elaborate more on this tomorrow in the Fast Lane with our own thoughts and those of Hall of Fame columnist David Teal, who's slated to join us once again tomorrow because he's had thoughts as well on the subject Trey and Ty discussed on the morning warm-up about 3 coaches now leaving Virginia within the last 4 years. Bronco Mendenhall, Tony Bennett, and now Brian O'Connor for different reasons. But we'll touch on all of that. But I think some of this is, you got to remember, much like you might blame Carla Williams, in some cases, she is to blame. And there are things that fall at her feet. But there are also elements where she's being asked to carry out what the Board of Visitors at Virginia wants, much like Whit Babcock is the athletic director of Virginia Tech, carrying out the directive of those there. And that's the job of people in those positions, is to carry out the directives and orders of those that are basically employing them. Look back to Mark Warner's famous speech when Virginia did not want Virginia Tech in the ACC, and Mark Warner had to remind the Board of Visitors who really funds everything and has the access to that. And ultimately, it, I think, has worked out better as much as we dog the ACC. But there is a part of Virginia where you have to sit there and go, they were behind the 8 ball. And a lot of the ACC, they were behind the 8 ball on embracing where college athletics really is for what they wanted it to be, which I think there can still be elements of that where relationships can matter, where you can do it the right way. I think it's harder than ever. You have to find ways to strengthen that. And we'll ask Dr. Dot Richardson about that in the Fast Lane. I don't know if it'll be when we discuss the season, 525, or bigger picture stuff, 545. But we'll eventually surely get to that. But just looking at it right now for Virginia, I think some of it goes to Carla Williams. You're the athletic director. It's your responsibility as the athletic director to continually rallying support for people to fund these programs. But some of this is also, and we did the InsaneRadioDeals.com fast take today from the train tracks. John Manson is thankful that, yes, that John Manson is CFRide.com founder. John Manson said he was thankful that nothing actually happened when we did it at the railroad crossing guards. But we did it there because sometimes it's the light at the end of the tunnel, and sometimes it's an oncoming train. But sometimes you can see what's happening, and if it is something you can see, then it is your job to forecast that. And look, you don't need to be our girl, Miss Cleo.
Don't go blindly through life. Call me now for your free reading.
R.I.P. to the GOAT. Never mind the old fraud charges that were there. But, you don't have to be her to see what's going on. And I think some of it was just willfully wishing it was going to be a different way, as opposed to embracing what it currently is and advocating for the necessary changes. And frankly, that's all of college athletics in general. People that are, in charge basically have for far too long been way out of touch when it really gets an idea of what's going on. And, that's the truth of the matter too. But there are all these factors that go in. So some blame for Carla Williams, some not. So we'll get to that more later in the Fast Lane. But if you want to blame somebody for paying too much money, blame yourself, because you're not shopping at InsaneRadioDeals.com. I mean, why in the world would you pay full price on certain items when you might be able to get a little bit of a discount to go in there? The Yard on 5th Street. The weather's great. Get outside. The Yard on 5th Street. That and JD's Cafe, both at InsaneRadioDeals.com, 2 of the best soul food places in all of Lynchburg, Virginia. And you can get it. Great deals. InsaneRadioDeals.com. I believe, have you been to the Yard on 5th Street?
I have. I have been to the Yard. I had the fried chicken there. It was amazing.
It was delicious.
It was very delicious.
So you would recommend that people get a little bit off of that fried chicken?
Absolutely. Take advantage of it too. Gift cards almost half off.
And guess what? If I'm not mistaken, you have a truck, right?
Yes, I do.
So when that bed liner goes bad, you know where you're going to go?
Well, you're going to go to X Liner, right?
Yeah, you're going to go to Line X of Lynchburg on Route 811 in Forest and get that bed liner that normally would be a $700 value for over $125 off the list price. And that's not all. As our guy Billy Mace, speaking of God rest their souls and RIP to legends, the legendary telemarketer, may have had some other issues. Again, we'll ignore that conveniently. But, hey, that's not all. There's so many other great deals awaiting you at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Now, speaking of deals, what's the deal? Things that we've missed, we get to right now in the Fast 5 at 5-ish.
It's time for Fast 5 at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
So speaking of Virginia athletics, this one slipped through the cracks last week. But Baylor's Scott Drew has hired Ron Sanchez as an associate head coach at Baylor. Of course, that's the former Virginia interim men's basketball coach last year. Look, good for Ron Sanchez. The Christian values thing, Baylor is obviously, Liberty would like to lay claim to this, but they're both large, religiously funded Baptist institutions. So both of them have that Baylor Baby Methodist. Please forgive me if I'm getting my denominations mixed up. I might have to go get my old friends, just friends on.
Is more than saying sorry.
That's right. It's admitting that we know Baylor is a religious school, but not exactly sure which denomination. But the point is, Ron Sanchez, Tony Bennett, we know Richie McKay, a lot of folks from that particular tree of men's basketball all share the same Christian faith-based principles. So that part is not surprising. But I've always thought Sanchez would be either a good mid-major coach where he can develop guys in a school, just say, hey, we know we're going to lose guys regularly, but we know we'll bring them in and we can trust you to develop. Because I actually think he's very good at that. And he was trying to keep the Tony Bennett system in place last year as best as possible when, again, it was the least ideal scenario. And the guys played hard for him. I just think the pieces didn't fit well together, and it would have only been Tony Bennett who could have made something out of that mess last year of a roster for UVA men's basketball. I don't put a lot of that at Ron Sanchez, and frankly, I think Tony Bennett would have done better than Sanchez would, but this is a good start for Sanchez. I'm glad to see him go to Baylor. Again, I don't think he's a Power 4 head coach or Power 5 since we'll include the Big East, but this is a good move for him. Culturally, it fits, and it's the type of program where you can say, you know what, I'd love to see him do well, even if it's something that you didn't really get much of in previous years. Meanwhile, playing in the first ever national championship match, Virginia men's golf last week fell to Oklahoma State 4-1 in men's golf out in California, Carlsbad to be specific. It was the first match play loss of the season. They went 5-1 between the ACC and NCAA tournament play. But I mean, if you look up and down the PGA Tour, and again, I am not your foremost expert on the PGA Tour or Live Golf, if you want to blend that in together. But a lot of Oklahoma State golfers make their debut at that particular level. Virginia's had some too, so it's not like they're schleps when it comes to that particular sport. But Virginia, it's taken a while to get to this point. Oklahoma State, they have more of that pedigree, and we'll discuss probably next week if things go the right way with JerryRatcliffe.com founder Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe. But for Virginia, it's a nice step in the right direction for that particular program.
Number 3.
Virginia Tech announced last week, and Trey touched on this on the morning warm-up, that they will enshrine prior to the September 20th game against Wofford, new members for their Hall of Fame. Most notably, I'm getting old here, but Kendall Fuller. Yes, the quarterback who once upon a time had his left hand up. And on top of that was a Kansas City Chief when they won the Super Bowl. I mean, this is how old we're getting, that we're enshrining people that I covered when I started in media, and I'm 39. So I am feeling older and older with these type of announcements. If Trey thinks he's getting older, try seeing these guys regularly. Eric Green was a really good underrated men's basketball player. I mean, he was never really a big NBA guy, but for Virginia Tech and their limited history in men's basketball, he's another one of those where you can go, wow, this guy contributed something to Virginia Tech. But kind of cool to have seen that and to see him get inducted into that particular event. Meanwhile, we get to another Liberty topic in
number 2.
As we mentioned yesterday with John Manson from ASeaofRed.com, that Liberty would be playing NC State on the road, but still a great matchup going into the men's basketball season, or as part of the men's basketball season. Liberty also announced that they will be part of a multi-team event down in Disney November 24th and 26th, so around the Thanksgiving holiday this upcoming season. It's sponsored by some chocolate company that I've never even heard of, but listen to the schools that are there. UC San Diego, Bradley, Vermont, Princeton, Towson, Temple, Rhode Island. Oddly enough, Temple and Rhode Island might be the two schools that have the least NCAA tournament pedigree in recent years. I mean, am I off by that, TJ?
No, you're right. Most of those have been teams that have made the tournament in the last 5-6 years.
And a lot of those are the type of teams that are your typical Cinderellas, your 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 seed teams. But for Liberty, playing a collection of those, if I'm a Flames fan, I'd like to see that. Now, I'd like to see more of those over in our favorite spot, Bel Air, LA Liberty Arena. But I love the idea of adding that to their schedule. Again, John Manson and I discussed this yesterday in the Fast Lane. We've had some feedback that's come in at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I want to see more of that from Liberty, but I still like the idea of their schedule featuring these type of peer institutions. It's not where I'd want it to be, but it's better than it's been in prior years.
It beats last year.
Well, and again, it doesn't necessarily beat some of the teams last year when you're talking like your Grand Canyons and teams like that.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about your like Mississippi Valley State or your UT Arlingtons, where there's not a lot of tie to the area and they're not similar in terms of their style, that's where I sit there and go, okay, I'd like to see more from Liberty peer institutions, if you will, because if you're talking about a program that's really going to be in a one big conference in all likelihood, Conference USA, you might as well play these type of teams that are going to get you prepared. Again, credit goes to Richie McKay because I think he has at least evolved into that. Meanwhile,
Number 1.
speaking of Liberty Flames athletics, after guiding Liberty to their best season in program history, Dr. Dot Richardson, who will join us momentarily in studio, was named D1 Softball Mid-Major Coach of the Year. And on top of that, there were a slew of postseason honors for other Liberty Flames softball players. Shouldn't come as a shock because it builds off of what was arguably one of the best seasons in Liberty softball history. I think you have to say it is the best because it's the one that broke through to the Super Regionals. But for Liberty, this volume of accolades, I think if you're a Flames fan, you like that these things come. First of all, you like postseason accolades more than preseason. I mean, I laugh at all the preseason honors that come out now because it's like, how founded is this, especially when there's more transferring than ever in football and men's basketball, and especially football where so much is schematically dependent. But for a sport like softball, it's kind of cool to see the recognition from the season that was with all these awards coming in on the back half of it if you're a Liberty Flames fan, and that's one of the cool parts to it.
Yeah, I agree. Watching Liberty softball and the incredible year it's had, definitely well-deserved.
Indeed it is. Meanwhile, speaking of Liberty softball, we will touch on that when we return in studio. Dr. Dot Richardson. She'll stop by the Fast Lane next, right here on the VTR and Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTR and Sports.
Medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
Experience, reputation, growth. These are what make Brownstone Properties the area's most trusted property management company. With the recent addition of 15 new communities at Smith Mountain Lake, we have expanded our HOA portfolio to over 80 communities across the region. Combine these with over 2,500 residential units, and it's easy to see why our reputation and business continue to grow. Let our experience work for you. Visit us today at brownstoneproperties.com or 3720 Old Forest Road in Lynchburg.
When you're a discerning gun owner, you value knowledge and honesty. That's what you'll get at Big Boys Guns. With over a decade serving Central and Southwest Virginia, we make the complex easy. Our team experience can help with firearm transfers and 100% electronic process for silencer ownership that is done in-house. And when you know firearms, you know it's honest. That's why we offer accurate appraisals and low prices. Looking to buy, sell, or trade? We make it easy at Big Boys Guns on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Have you looked at your home's exterior lately? Do you see faded siding, paint peeling, and wood rotting, windows that are impossible to open and close, and gutters falling off? Call Collins Siding and Windows to transform your home's exterior and save you money on energy costs. Dreaming of a new porch or sunroom? Collins can do that too. Since 1989, Collins Siding and Windows has been transforming homes in Central Virginia. Roofs, windows, siding, gutters, porches, decks, and sunrooms. They can do it all. Call Collins Siding and Windows today, 434-525-6307.
We're here with Colt from We Fix Stupid Computers. Colt, to go along with your residential or individual walk-in services that you offer, you also do a lot of business IT support. How about you discuss that, and what specifically do you do to help businesses in the area?
We see a lot of that. Small to medium-sized businesses, they still have their IT projects. They still need resources to help them within their office and for remote users. And so we'll step in and fill in the gap where we do a lot of projects for them, help them manage their resources, their budgets, and get their technology under control.
Colt, how can these people reach out to you to assess their IT needs?
Call us. Our number is 434-525-8590. Our website, wefixstupidcomputers.com. We're on Facebook. And our office is here locally, 14690 Forest Road, right next to Scott's Cabinet on 221.
Do you know what a cold climate heat pump is? They're a new generation of heat pumps from Tara Lee Mosley that provide substantially more heat than traditional heat pumps, even when it's 5 degrees outside. This means your electrical auxiliary heat runs less, saving you big time on your electric bill. And with the recent spikes in electric utility rates, that's crucial. Plus, these new heat pumps qualify you for a $2,000 federal tax credit. Contact Tara Lee Mosley for more info on the new cold climate heat pumps. Put some fun into your lunch or dinner. Come to Kodo Japanese for the show with fun hibachi-style Japanese prepared in front of you. Looking for calmer fun? Kodo Japanese serves Lynchburg's most delicious sushi, including the famed Vol crab rolls. Plus, drinks including specials on mimosas for brunch every Saturday and Sunday from noon to 3. Speaking of fun, everyone gets a free birthday dinner at Kodo. So put the fun into your meal at Kodo Japanese, Wards Road in Lynchburg.
Head to lynchburg-hillcats.com to lock in your tickets for the Lynchburg Hillcats this season. Now here's VTR in Sports.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
She's here in studio, and if you're wondering where we were, by the way, we had a little bit of a technical snafu, but don't worry, that's why Fast Lane Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts or VTR in Sports and Fast
Ed Lane on Facebook Live and Instagram works well so that we can then have a way for you to listen back.
It's just kind of a nice way to do everything. So we've got that. We also have in studio today the doctor herself, Dr. Dot Richardson, that is the doctor of Liberty softball. Dr. Dot, first of all, thank you for coming back into the Fast Lane. We have to explain that normally we've had you in studio previously, and we've done it at a time where you were getting ready for a matchup. And I'm not really a superstitions guy, but I wanted to kind of sit there and go, wait, let's wait till the end of the year when we can fully put a recap on it. And you're not, halfway preparing for a sporting event. Hopefully you've been able to reflect. So we'll ask you, first of all, thank you for being back with us in the Fast Lane. Second of all, I hope our explanation makes somewhat sense. And third of all, have you and your family and your team had a chance to reflect on what this season meant and was?
Well, thanks for having me back. I like this idea of waiting till the end of the season to recap it because it was the best season that Liberty softball has ever had. A lot of historical, directives were made. I mean, we broke history in regards to Liberty won more games than ever. Liberty went farther postseason than ever, which was super regionals in Oregon. The others, we took down the number one seed nationally, which had never been done before. We went to Texas A&M and we beat them 2 out of 3 games, which we played. There's a lot of historic events, which was really exciting, and just been blessed to be a part of it.
Would you have made the super regional this year if it wasn't for the disappointments of prior years?
That's a great question. I do believe it had a lot to do with it. When you look at history, we've been in 6 regionals, and this was the first one we're able to get to super regionals. So last year against Georgia at Georgia's regional, we were able to beat them. They went to the losers bracket, came back, beat us. And then we were able, to come back and have a really good game, but we were 1 out away from super regionals. So we're almost there. And I like to use the analogy that our girls had tasted the appetizer, but we're hungry for the entree. And the entree was to get to super regionals. And this year during the selection show, when they brought up the number 1 seed, Texas A&M, nobody was really paying attention because we never thought we'd go to Texas A&M. I mean, we thought we might go to South Carolina's regional and Clemson's regional or somewhere in the South, but never thought we were going to be going west, right? So next thing you know, there it was, Texas A&M, St. Francis, Marist, and I look, Liberty. And I had to tell the girls, I was like, ladies, Liberty, that's us. We had no idea it was going to happen, but God had amazing plans to do what we did. It was historic. And to be a part of it, part of making history is always fun.
It is. I mean, it was an awesome ride watching through the regular season, through the postseason, and then getting down to Texas A&M. The intimidation factor of going to the number 1 team in softball this year, and we know Oklahoma's had the history they have, but Texas A&M, you don't become number 1 in spite of Oklahoma if you have not had a really good season. Was there ever any intimidation factor for your team, or were they locked in as soon as they knew what the selection was?
Well, first, my sports information director, Joe Carmody, right, who's in the studio actually, him and I, throughout the season, were ranking the top 25. And we definitely had Texas A&M, even in the very beginning. Joe was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, Texas A&M is very good. So I would place them either 1 through 3, and they ended up getting the number 1 seed. So there's always an intimidation. It was first, it was a wow of, why are we going all the way to Texas? Right? And then why are we selected to play the number 1 seed? And I say that because we have a history at Liberty in regionals of taking down the higher seed that they put us with. And let me reflect, in the first one, South Carolina, right? We beat them, and they had to fight back hard, which they did in the if game to beat us. We took out Tennessee in their regional, so we took them down. Then we went to Duke Regional, and at Duke Regional, we were able to beat Georgia. They came back to beat us. It's like a 1 in the morning game. And then we ended up going to UCLA, took UCLA down out of the regionals, which hadn't happened in decades for that to happen. And then you look at the Georgia, we beat Georgia. They came back, beat us, and we went to the if game, and we were 1 out away from beating them. So now you're sending us to Texas A&M regional. That's a lot to put on the number 1 seed. And guess what? We gave them a lot of challenges, and we were able to pull it out.
Dr. Dot Richardson, Liberty Flames softball coach, hanging out with us today in studio here in the Fast Lane. And going back, you mentioned all those prior disappointments, the prior runs through different regionals, but never getting past the regional and onto the super regional. And in particular, you mentioned Georgia last year.
Yeah.
Getting down to the final out and the opportunity there. You guys, great pitcher, but backup pitcher with the injury to Escobar and what she'd been nursing and battling throughout that regional. And you have a pitch, 2 strike count, 2 outs. If it's hit, the game may be over the other direction. Instead, it's a strikeout. How much is softball ultimately preparing mentally for the fact that it can come down to one of those moments?
Well, that's the exciting thing about fast pitch softball is it comes down to those few moments, even the one moment. If you've been watching the College World Series right now, it's just amazing. The games have been so close, heroic events. I mean, the viewership is amazing. Millions of people, even our Texas A&M game regional that you reflect on right now, there was over 500,000 who were watching just on the live stream, let alone, other outlets. But the thing was this, going to Texas A&M, we beat Marist, and now we're playing Texas A&M with their crowd, which was out of control. I mean, it was like crazy. And we're able to beat them. Shocked the nation. Then Texas A&M has to win to come back to play us, and they did. So now that we have to play another game that if we win, it's ours. So our ace pitcher, Elena Escobar, she has a nagging injury for the past 3-4 months. It's her Achilles. And so it had been bothering her, and we gave her rest, but she was able to come back strong in the first game, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And in the second game, she was right there with us. We should have won that game. Very controversial calls. We're right there in it. So the drama begins. So now, after we lose that game, it's winner take all in the if game. And Elena's doing great. Then all of a sudden she gives up a home run. We have the lead, gives up a home run. Then she gives up 2 hits back to back. So we had a decision as coaches to make. I sent Coach Fagan Graham out to talk to her. And then Sammy and I are talking about, we just got to go with her. What are we going to do? And all of a sudden, without any decision being made, I see Elena Escobar in tears walking off, giving the ball to Coach Fagan Graham. And I walk out kind of, what's happening? And Coach Fagan Graham was like, she just can't do it anymore. And the only pitcher we had ready to go was in first relief was Kaylin Yoder, affectionately known as Yo. And so she comes in, gives up 1 run, but gets out of it, and then comes back, like you had mentioned, with 2 runners on, 2 strikes. It was actually a full count on the batter. You talk about drama. You got 5,000 plus Aggies, the 12th man, going crazy. And then pitch is delivered, beautiful rise ball, hitter swings and misses, and we won and made history. Drama.
Dr. Dot Richardson, I'm going to correct you partially on that. You mentioned people that are watching the World Series. They're not watching, they're listening on the VTR and Sports app because we've had the entire women's college World
fantastic.
Series.
Listening is great.
And you can check it out when the World Series final games 1, 2, and if necessary, game 3, right here. Not on Rewind 1039 if you're watching.
Right here.
But on the VTR and Sports app, we will have all of that for you, or just ask that smart speaker. Open VTR and Sports. You teed it up for a shameless plug, and hopefully we hit it out of the park like a lot of your hitters did this year.
I love it. Talk about hitting out of the park, you guys. That if game against Texas A&M, we had the eyes of the nation, if not the world, watching, right? It was huge because we had beaten them once. They had beaten us once. Very competitive game. So imagine this. We're down 0-3. 0-3. We ended up getting a 1 run. And then our catcher with 1 runner on base, hadn't gotten a single hit yet, gets up and blasts a 2-run home run to tie the game up. Then we have 2 runners on base, and you got Rachel Roop, affectionately known as Roopy, gets up. Our number 1 power hitter, they didn't walk her. Base was open. Runners on second and third. She gets up, and she hits a blast, a 3-run home run to take us to the lead of 6-3. And we ended up winning 6-5. It was drama. They would score, we would score, we'd score, they would score. It was fantastic. And I'm glad they were listening to us.
It was. It's really cool, though, to see where we are right now and just the evolution of women's softball. There are going to be some bigger picture stuff that we'll get to when we have our second segment with Dr. Dot Richardson. But in more minute picture, you've gotten through this season. Now, you're named Mid-Major Softball Coach of the Year. A ton of your players have been named Player of the Year recognizations. Or
All-American, Rachel Roop. Yeah.
Rachel Roop as well. How satisfying is that for you as a coach to see that, and maybe especially to see that after the season when so much of the season justifiably is about the we, and then there's a chance to celebrate some of the me that's made up the we?
Well, there's a lot of humility behind it, but I can tell you with my coaching staff, there's without a doubt, we are one of the top coaching staffs in the country. We are, yes, Liberty is not in a Power 5 or Power 4, soon to be, who knows, Power 2, maybe, I don't know what it's going to end up looking like in college sports, but Liberty is right there ready to be a part of it. Our staff is amazing. Our budget is crazy. It's awesome. We got amazing facilities. We have amazing backing from the administration, the President Costin as well, the board. So Liberty is really so well supported that even though we fall in that category of a non-Power 4, a lot of, I just am shocked at this point that Liberty is not in one of those. I don't know if it becomes part of the East Division of the Big 12 or it becomes a part of the ACC. I don't know what might happen, whether Tier 1 develops, but Liberty is ready. They're ready for an invite. They're ready for whatever, God's plan ultimately is going to be. But to be named head coach, whenever I say coach of the year, it's really coaching staff of the year. So I give shouts out to amazing staff members from, I mentioned Casey Fagan-Graham and then Sammy Fagan-Harmon. And then we got Emily Kirby-Nagel and we got Haley Sampson, who is her first year director of ops. And I mentioned, I can go on and on, Jordan Heslop. And then you also got right over here, Joe Carmody and so many others. It takes a village, they say, and it does. But, when you center Christ on everything and you just give it to him, you can play with so much freedom. You can play with just so much passion that he's given you because your identity is not in the sport. And that was our theme this year. Do not worship the sport of softball. Let softball be your worship back to the Lord. And for all of you listening, that's what I challenge you today. We had shirts made, Go Flame, Go God, right? And Go God, capitalize all the way through because he needs to be the center of it all, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And when we look at it, whatever you do, just recognize you are loved. You're loved by your Creator. You're loved by our God, who has given you gifts. And I challenge you to trust those gifts, no matter what it is, because they're meant to be shared to impact the lives of others in positive ways. And we're blessed to do it through the sport of softball.
Dr. Dot Richardson, you touched on 6 big picture topics. So I know, are you cool? We just go to break now. I know I'm not supposed to telegraph it, but I'm going to telegraph our pitch here because After we come back, we want to get into your thoughts on some of the bigger picture elements, some of which it laid the foundation for this past season and could mean more success, and probably will, for Liberty softball going forward. But also, what you mentioned about Liberty, the direction, the faith elements, there are a lot of angles to discuss. So we'll kind of transition when we return on that here in the Fast Lane VTR and Sports app. As that smart speaker, open VTR and Sports and VTR and Sports or Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook Live, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
Mark Dalton here with the Terry Auto Group. If you don't love your car, then you're simply just driving the wrong one. At Terry Volkswagen, Terry Subaru, Terry Auto Outlet, and the Terry Clearance Center, we've got the perfect new or used car for you. We make your car buying experience easy. Need help with imperfect credit? No problem. Our team works hard to get you approved and back on the road. Because when you shop at Terry, you drive away happy. Visit us at any of our 4 locations or online at terryautogroup.com. Terry Auto Group. You'll love our cars.
When planning a summer trip, you probably have a checklist. So if you're driving, here's a safety checklist. If you see flashing lights on the side of the road, slow down and move over. If you're in an accident and can move off the road, try to find a safe spot like a parking lot. And if you're on the shoulder, it helps to have your flashers on. Just some friendly tips from our family at TROSLAW. We hope you never need us, but if you do, we're here to help at 777-HURT and TROSLAW.com.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, build with Right Choice.
Big Boys Guns can thankfully say we serve Central and Southwest Virginia as we've done for over a decade. We've learned some people know exactly what they want, while some prefer a helping hand. That's why our staff won't judge your knowledge. We're just excited to greet you and help you in finding that perfect firearm or accessory, because everyone is at a different stage of responsible gun ownership. Our advice is free, and we even have concealed carry classes. When you're ready for responsible gun ownership, come see us. Big Boys Guns on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
It's a week of giveaways as the Carolina Mudcats come to town June 10th through the 15th to take on the Lynchburg Hillcats. The fun starts on Friday with a Copa-branded Jolly Roger flag giveaway for Pirate Night. Help us strike out cancer on Saturday with the Lavender Hat giveaway and post-game fireworks show. And we wrap up the series with a Father's Day barbecue and a Hillcats bottle opener. Tickets are available at lynchburg-hillcats.com.
Hi, I'm Matt with Fleet Feet Roanoke. I've enjoyed working with Ed Lane and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. But when they sold their Roanoke station, I was skeptical the partnership could still provide value. Months later, I'm thankful that Ed took the time to meet with me, discuss the right solutions, and a plan to invite his audience to Fleet Feet Roanoke. Now we're able to build a connection with that audience thanks to Ed's creativity. Stop by and see us at Fleet Feet Roanoke to learn more. We'd love to get to know you.
Email info@virginiatalkradionetwork.com to start growing your business.
This summer, you could go to the pool over and over and over. Or you could scuba dive in an aquarium, a lake, or the ocean for some of the most majestic views imaginable. I'm Chuck with AquaTrek Adventures. Our Try Scuba classes are a perfect way to help you decide if you're ready for scuba certification. When you are, we have classes that can get you certified in just a few days. Your next adventure awaits at AquaTrek Adventures, 30 Mill Lane in Salem, and online at aquatrekadventures.com.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
Hey, gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle BT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
So, there's an old saying like it's different on the mountain with Liberty University athletics. And I think there's some merit to that. And we'll touch on that as we welcome you back into the Fast Lane here. VTR and Sports app, 93.3 FM. And Fastlane Ed Lane, Facebook Live, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, hit us up, Fastlane Ed Lane on the socials as well. But we bring that up because the first time I had seen this on the sideline was the Bahamas Bowl when Jamie Chadwell has the shirt that said Jesus won, WON, on the shirt. Now, granted, probably a forgetful game for those just wanting aesthetically appealing football, certainly Liberty fans as well, when Buffalo kind of took it to Liberty with all the opt-outs they had in football. But the shirt itself made a lot of waves in terms of people having thoughts and discussions. And then you look at that, and all of a sudden we're seeing this trend pop up in college sports. And then Liberty won, God won, was the one from the Liberty Lady Flames that popped up during the Super Regional against Oregon and during the postseason run for Liberty softball. So we'll ask Dr. Dot Richardson, and she's back with us here in the Fast Lane. Dr. Dot, first of all, thank you for being back with us. Second of all, did your ideas originate? Is there a little friendly competition going on within Liberty athletic programs for different Christ and faith-based shirts?
There's no competition that I'm aware of, but whenever there's something that the Lord has put on your heart, it's amazing how much it ends up on your t-shirt.
Where was that idea then? You mentioned putting it on your heart. Was that a product of, and again, I'm still having trouble wrapping my mind around this, 26 baptisms with the Conference USA softball tournament?
Okay, well, first of all, we have an all athletic department meeting at Liberty. And all of us head coaches from spring sports got up and talked about the team. And at the end, everyone's like, go Flames. Well, I'm the last one, Richardson. So I get up there and I'm like, go Flames. And I'm like, but more importantly, go God. And it just stuck, right? Because the reality is, yes, as student athletes, right, as whatever, universities, you want to win. But just like, Coach Chadwell said, it's like Jesus has already won. So the question is, the true victory is in Jesus. And if you don't know who Jesus is, I sure hope you can get in touch with me, anybody. Like you guys, when COVID hit, I was like, what does God say about this? Because the biggest thing and the proof for God is prophecy, right? Prophecy. Man can't decide or know what's going to happen even in 1 hour, let alone thousands of years. So I can challenge you that if you're an atheist, agnostic, whatever. But what I'm getting to right now is to thinking as those that are sisters and brothers in Christ are ready, right? Our goal is to spread the gospel. What's the gospel? Jesus died on the cross, prophesied, right? Betrayed by 30 pieces of silver, by the way, prophesied. I can go on and on. He fulfilled all 300 prophecies, right? Of the Messiah, the chosen one, the Son of God, right? So when he died on the cross, was buried, and 3 days later rose from the dead. Why 3 days? Because the Jews didn't believe you were dead until 3 days that you were buried. Then he rose after 3 days, and he overcame what Satan thought he had won, which he did in the beginning with Adam and Eve bringing death and sin into the world. So he overcame death. He paid the price for all of our sins. We're all sinners and fall short of the glory of God. So we need a savior, right? And so Jesus paid it all. He took God taken on flesh. So as we take this to show us how to live a righteous life for him, and to pay the debt for our sins. So here we are. We're at the Conference USA. We're focused. We're number 1 seed, back-to-back regular season champions at Conference USA. And we ended up a few days later becoming the back-to-back Conference USA championship tournament winners, right? But before the conference tournament started, I got it to the into the hotel a little late. And while I was in the elevator, I was approached by Jacksonville State. And it was a player who said, Coach, could you baptize me and a couple of my teammates? Because we thought, who better to baptize us than the coach at Liberty? And I was like, I'd be honored to do it. And I said, we could do it in the hotel pool. I said, you call me tomorrow, let me know a good time. And after she had said goodbye, thank you, good night, I thought, I've never baptized anyone before. I was like, oh, okay, Lord, what's going on? This is all you, right? Next thing you know, the word spread. I didn't spread it other than I told a couple people, one of my assistants and a player. And so 4 of our players wanted to be baptized as well. And then it spread even more somehow to where at the head coaches meeting, the law tech coach said, what about these baptisms? And I was like, wow, how did he hear? God works in amazing ways. And a long story short, as I gave it to the Lord, like, this is all you, God. This is all you. And no matter what happens, please let it be, you give me the words. And also, whatever assistance I might need, please provide it. And could you make sure the pool is open and make sure no one's in the pool? I mean, I don't know. So, you know how hotel pools are. So next thing you know, as I round the corner by the elevators heading into the Embassy Suites pool area, the pool was open, right? Nobody was in the pool, but who met me right by the elevators? This pastor introduced himself and said, "Are you the coach for Liberty?" I said, "Yeah. Hey, I'm Coach Dot." And he was like, "Well, I'm Pastor Greg. And I heard about the baptisms and I just want to witness it. And if I could be of any help, let me know." I said, "Yeah, get in the pool with me." And then the other gentleman was for Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So as we walked into the pool area, there was about 60 to 70 people. And the baptisms before it started, I felt on my heart to share the gospel and talk about how God, how amazing he is and how holy. We can't even comprehend it. I've heard people say, "Well, I can't believe in a God that has always existed." Where did he start? How can we in our finite minds even understand that level? We're trying to put God on our level. Like, you can't, right? You just can't. It's like, he's so awesome. So he cannot lie. And what he says is, we accept Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. The Holy Spirit comes within us. We're saved. We're saved from what? We're saved from being with Satan, the false prophet, and the Antichrist in the lake of fire with the fallen demons and the fallen angels and those that don't believe, right? That will forever be separated from him. So as I share this, I talked about what it meant to be saved. Jesus said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one gets to the Father except through me." So he's either who he says he is, and he says, "I'm the Son of Man, the Son of God has come to take away the sins of the world," right? Or he's not, or he's a fraud. Well, then think about it. When you fulfill all prophecy, when no one denies that he has existed, you have to look and say what Jesus says is truth. And in fact, when Jesus says, "The truth shall set you free," Satan has turned that around, people, that we think in the world that means if we be honest, that means we'll feel better. No, Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." I'm the truth. So the truth that will set you free from your own sin, from the future of being separated from God, is Jesus. So as I shared the gospel, next thing you know, we started these baptisms that originally I thought would be 3 people. Then 4 of my own players were like, "I've never been baptized. Coach, would you do it?" I was like, "Yeah." And then next thing you know, the 7 were baptized. And then Pastor Greg, I said, "Would you like to say anything?" So he starts praying. And as he's praying, next thing you know, 4 more players from other teams, they came down into the pool and were baptized. Then Pastor Greg's praying and I'm behind him going, "Holy Spirit, just move to those that are yours." Because you guys, baptism is when you're immersed in the water, as symbolically, you are buried in the likeness of Jesus's death. And then when you come out of the water, you are raised in the likeness of his resurrection, overcoming death, and walk a new life with him. It is a public profession of your faith in Jesus Christ. Next thing you know, you guys, that evening, it was about an hour and 15 minutes, 26 of these student athletes from 4 different colleges in the pool at the Embassy Suites prior to the Conference USA Championship Tournament were baptized. And I had never baptized anyone ever before. And it was so humbling. My husband was there to help as well. He's an ordained pastor online, and also this Pastor Greg was there. So God uses all of us. And it was just so, you could just sense the Holy Spirit just moving. And there is right now an apostasy of falling away from God in society, but there's also that there is a revival of those coming, and you see it in athletics more than ever right now.
Dr. Dot Richardson in studio, Liberty Flames softball coach, hanging out today here in the Fast Lane. If you've missed anything, it's up Fast Lane, Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts, including Facebook Live and YouTube, VTRN Sports as well, and the VTRN Sports app if you want to listen to us live. We'll tie what you said and your experience in the faith part to kind of where we are in college athletics right now. And the question that we'll pose, because, I mean, why not just tell you we'll pose a question instead of just ask it? But it's this. Look, I don't fault players if they can get a great financial situation. Everybody's motivated, and there's certain situations that pop up. If players leave for that, I understand sometimes you have to take that for the betterment of yourself or for your family. But in this era where loyalty is maybe more fractured than ever before, how much have you noticed that the faith component of Liberty University is an asset to player retention and the players that you'd like to keep? Maybe not all of them, but more than you would think. And then also being able to attract players to Liberty, given how chaotic everything seems to be elsewhere.
We have a lot of transfers that have gone through the portal that have been in those Power 5, now Power 4, the whole scenario there. And the power comes from their legislative vote because of FBS with football. So one of their votes is worth 2 when you put all the colleges together. You guys may not realize there's only 55 colleges in these Power 4s, but in softball, there's over 315 softball programs in colleges. So anyway, there's a majority that are considered non-Power 5 or mid-major level. So as you get into that situation, we've had a lot of transfers that have come to us from LSU and Alabama and Michigan, a couple from Michigan, Washington. I can go on and on, right, that have come to us because they realize it's not what they thought it would be. They would rather be what in a culture that Liberty offers, conservatism, faith-based, a servant heart, with our coaching staff. We're not trying to move to the next level, if you would call that, or try to keep our jobs by the win-loss record, because we do believe in whatever we believe that the Lord is going to bring us the players he wants us to have. And our goal is to show them Christ's love, right? Our goal is to have a servant heart where we're able to help them with our experience, help them to become the best they can be, so the team can become the best it can be. And along the way, the biggest victory is if they get to know Jesus. Ask the questions, right? Why do you believe what you believe? We have free will. And so for us, it's exciting to be able to be in the sport more to help the newer generation. But as you look today, you're going to be watching the finals for the Women's College World Series and Texas Tech. When you see the pitcher, Kennedy for Texas Tech, she's $1 million arm. The first player to get $1 million per year. There's other players that have got $1 million for a couple years, getting $500,000 each year and $300,000 or $200,000. And most of these are, by the way, pitchers, just like you see in football, quarterbacks. And so Texas also pays their ace and probably others some good bucks. So when their alumni is putting in all this money, Texas Tech was able to do it because, they had a certain family there that has some money, right, with oil or whatever it might be, and they're willing to give that money every year back to Texas Tech. And that's what they needed. And I knew when Kennedy got on the portal that whoever got her would be in the World Series. And I thought they would also win because she is that good. But on credit to Texas Tech, they're scoring runs as well. So you can't have it just on one side. So yes, there is money in the game. Not as much money as you're seeing thrown around, I think, with football. But the question is, are these athletes going to go for the money and keep going for money and keep going for money and keep going for money? Or will you see some players that the loyalty is, hey, this is a great spot for me. This is a great environment for me. But it's hard to turn down $1 million. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, especially in a sport like softball where there's not nearly the allure of, you'll make it up on the back end when you get to the professional ranks. Whereas in baseball, certainly basketball and football, there's I could sacrifice $100,000 now because when I turn pro and I'm signing a multi-million-dollar contract, it'll all come out in a wash anyway.
Yeah. But the thing is their mental health as well, you guys. I mean, you're trying to throw money at 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, and you'll look at even 22, 23, and you think, oh, they're so grown up. And then they start speaking, and you realize they are still not fully developed in the frontal cortex in a way that this money puts so much pressure on some of them, right? They either feel that they have to live up to it, or I have to play well in order to get that money. And as a result, there's so much pressure that comes amongst it. And the other thing is with teammates, like, so is there enough financial advice that's being given? Is there enough counseling that's being given? Because there is very easy to start worshiping the money. Money becomes your God, right? And when that happens, what happens when you don't have it or you spent it all? So when you get $1 million, and if someone's not there to help you and you're having to write a check for $400,000 to give to pay taxes, that's not easy to do, is it?
No, I mean, it's not that money's the root of all evil. It's the love of money. That's the big caveat that we're discussing and talking about with Dr. Dot Richardson here in the Fast Lane, W227BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA, Gretna Danville Southside, the VTR and Sports app, and Ask That Smart Speaker, open VTR and Sports. Speaking of Texas Tech, you can hear their softball final in the Women's College World Series later this week. All games, 1, 2, and if necessary, 3, right here on your home for the best play-by-play, the VTR and Sports app and 93.3 FM. From Liberty's perspective, how well positioned, you mentioned the resources that Liberty has relative to peers, but just the general nature of college athletics. Are you in a worry spot about where Liberty is, the way some people are, or is this still in a pretty healthy program spot overall?
We're in a very healthy program. We've got more scholarships, which is great. We also have internal, they call it now, NIL, name, image, and likeness. So we're in a pretty good spot. We're not in a spot where we're throwing millions of dollars around, that's for sure. I think Liberty is going to have a choice to make in the future when eventually it becomes a tier 1 level where teams maybe, I've heard 70 to 90 colleges, they all have to put in 21 million, for example, all of them the same amount in their internal NLI. That has been talked about. Whether it'll ever happen or not, don't know. But they're trying to figure out, if you looked right now, they're trying to figure out how they make sure the rich aren't always getting richer, which, is something that kind of happens. But remember in March Madness, you'd always look at those underdogs. And I think that's what Liberty softball was this year. They thought, on behalf of all the mid-majors, taking down, these schools that are throwing all this money at their athletes, can Liberty do it? And we went one step closer to doing it. But JMU was there a few years ago, how they went to the World Series, took down Oklahoma with Odyssey pitching in the circle. So it's not impossible. Look at March Madness, how you've had St. Peter's, I think it is, other, colleges that you're like, what are they even able to be on the same court as these teams that have money? People love that. And eventually fans, are they going to keep being happy seeing the ones with the money play each other all the time, and then one quarterback leads from that school to the other one and to another one, and they're cheering against him one year and for him the next year? And I don't know how it's going to go. But I do know that America is all about the underdog. America is all about how can we provide opportunity for others to express the gifts that they have been given. And we're excited at Liberty to see what the plans are going to be. But we're moving along with it, and we're excited about it.
Dr. Dot Richardson with us here in the Fast Lane. Dr. Dot, there's 2 elements to this question. There's the faith-based element, which we know will help. There's also the reality of losing key contributors from this past year's team. How do you, I wouldn't say replicate what you did this past year or even build upon it, because each season is new, but how do you continue to keep Liberty softball in a spot where you guys are able to compete for Conference USA regular season and tournament championships and be able to make postseasons and have a chance to win postseason series?
Well, that's been one of the hardest things to do. Is I'm someone who doesn't like change. And so I'd always look at 4 years in a row, right? You have a freshman and 4 years and you move on. But with the transfer portal, I've learned you have to go year by year. And so we have benefited from the transfer portal. We have amazing athletes. KK Madry, I start naming, I'm going to name all of them. I don't want to miss anyone, but KK hitting over 400 this year, and Woodard is 6th year coming from Alabama, and Woodard came from LSU. We've got Oregon State, 2 transfers, our shortstop in Watley, and also our left fielder in Paige Dorr, who were phenomenal this year. We've got Elena Escobar was a transfer for North Alabama. So we have a lot of these players in the transfer portal that are wanting what we have, and we've had them, though, when they've come to us, they haven't left because they love it. Then I've had players who haven't played much and don't want to get on the transfer portal because they love it. but now we have a roster limit of 25. So I've had 8 that have graduated, impact players, without a doubt. Rachel Roop, the superstar, right? All-American, just unbelievable. She's playing pro now with the Florida Vibe. So she will be missed for sure. And the others I talked about, Rachel Crane at third, amazing third baseman. I know I'm going to forget some of them, but I don't mean to. Paige Bachman did a great job in the circle. They're gone, right? They're moving on to the real world, I would say. But however, we've had a nice transition with some of these, players that have started. So the future looks really bright for Liberty softball. We have a strong class coming in this year, and next year is even stronger. We have an amazing pitcher coming in from Canada, loves the Lord, Abby Finley. She's amazing. We have a 6'4" pitcher coming in. She's coming off an ACL injury, so we're not sure what we're going to get. Danny Lee is unbelievable. I don't want to forget anyone. Avery Knoll, Coco. So we've got some really strong players coming in. Transfers, we do have some transfers visiting this weekend, and we're looking forward to possibly getting 2 or 3 of those, which could nicely wrap it all up in a bow to hopefully go beyond what we did this year in super regionals. But you got to have in the pitching, you got to be able to hit the ball.
2 to 3 transfers.
Yeah.
I'm sure John Manson and a seaofred.com will break that, or maybe Bryson Gordon of News Advance in the morning warm-up tomorrow or next week, right here on VTRN Sports, 7 to 8 a.m. Dr. Dot Richardson in studio once again, talking Liberty Flames softball, and not just that, but bigger picture elements as well. Dr. Dot, it's been great speaking with you. This is always one of the highlights each year, being able to chat with you. And again, we hope that you will accept our request for forgiveness, that we try to do these now toward the end of the year where we can go as long as necessary and know that you're not bound by game preparation at least.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And it's been such an amazing road, and God's got a plan. We're going to just continue to let him use us in any way he can. And I think being on your channel as well, for all those listening, I hope you are inspired, just introspective of just saying, what is life really about? So we're all on the winning team. Jesus said, you're either for me or against me. There's no lukewarm. So we're on the winning team with Christ, a victory in him.
My guy, Coach Rick Kennedy, who sends my daily devotionals each morning to my phone, has the verses up regularly, and he's gonna give me a hard time and say I need to see him at Impact Church in Forest soon, because there's the verses about being lukewarm being worse than being either in or out. We're on Team Jesus in our Lane household, so go us. But
and yes, go God,
yes, indeed.
Go God.
All right. On that note, Dr. Dot, thank you for your time
go
today in the
Flames.
Fast Lane. We do appreciate it. We love having you. We'll have more tomorrow in the Fast Lane. If you missed anything, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook Live, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, VTR and Sports as well. And we're back 5 to 6-ish tomorrow in the Fast Lane.
It's an OKC in the NBA Finals. So this, to me, is a bit of a stunner. This is a